Kal Kadosh Boker Or. We're continuing with the halachot. This is Siman Kuf Mem Aleph. Maran brings down in Siv Zayin Haolel Migdal Ole bepetach shehu lo bederech ketzara ממקומו ויראה מהמגדל בדרך אחר שהוא לא בדרך ארוכה עד מקומו. ואם שני הדרכים שווים עולה בפתח שהוא לא בדרך ימין ויורד בפתח שכנגדו. So we're going to mention actually a few halachot in this saif. First halacha is when you're going to the Tevah. You're being called up to the Sefer Torah and you're going to the Tevah, or any time that you would go up to the Tevah, what you do is that you're always going to go the shorter distance. So for example, where I'm standing right now, the shorter distance is going over here, which is going to be, right, going through this area. This happens to be the right. It's not going to be the left, and I'm going to go further away. But if you're going to be wherever it is on that side of the synagogue and you're coming up, it's always going to be that you're going the shorter distance. We don't pay attention to right or left, but rather whatever is the shortest in order to get to the Tevah. Now, what happens when you're going back? So when you're going back, he comes and he says, you always go the opposite way. So again, we're not paying attention to right or left, we're paying attention which would be the longest way to go to the Tevah. Now he says, what happens though if they're going to be shavim? What happens now if it's going to be the same? Meaning, wherever I'm standing, if I'm going to be standing here in between, technically it's going to be exactly the same whether I go to the right or I go to the left. Here, the right and the left plays a role, which means that here I'm going to always choose the right side in order to go up to the Sefer Torah, and then the other way, obviously, because remember, whichever way you went up, the opposite way is going to go down. So therefore, you're going to go down the other way around. Here the Mishabra says, why do you have to go b'derech ketzara? So here the Mishabra brings it says that it's because of kvod tzibur, which means that number one, we don't want people to wait. I have seen B'tei Knesiyot that because of that, they will actually give the aliyah to the person beforehand in order that the tzibur does not have to wait for the person to come up. Which means that even if it's going to be by Sfaradim or by others, right, they would actually come as the Ashkenazim. That's what they do anyway. The Ashkenazim, they'll always call the next person up, and then they'll start a Misha Berach for the person that was already there. So therefore, the second that they finish with Misha Berach, that the person was already there, the other guy is already by the Sefer Torah. There's no waiting whatsoever. I have seen that even certain Sfaradim have also instituted that in order because of this, because of Kavod HaTzibur, which means that they don't want Tircha de Tzibura. Vegam Mishum Kavod HaTorah, also Kavod HaTorah. Why? It shows that you're always going the fastest route in order to show how chaviv it is. Meaning, if I'm going to come and take my time, or I'm going to go the longest route, you have to run there. You have to be able to go in such a fashion that you're showing it. So because of the two different ones, that's what you're supposed to be doing. Here, actually, the Kaf HaChaim says an incredible thing that you should say quietly. Right? He comes and he says a whole L'Shem Yichud just while you're walking up to the Sefer Torah. I haven't seen a lot of people do that, but again, there does exist the concept of mamash. You're going up to the Sefer Torah. The second halakha that the Rambam brings down is Velo yered she'ala kvar haraui likrot acharav. When you finish your aliyah, you don't just go down. What does that mean? You have to wait. Here the Rambam brings down ad she'ala kvar haraui likrot acharav, means until the next person has actually come up. The Mishnah Brado comes and he says, again, this is talking about kvod Sefer Torah, that you shouldn't leave it by itself. The minhag is to wait ad shematchila sheni bracha. Technically, you have to wait until the next person that gets up already says a bracha, and the medaktekim, they're going to wait, and they're going to wait until the second person actually is going to finish his aliyah. Why? Because he says, because they go down during Ben Gavra LeGavra. Because if not, he won't be able to listen. Meaning like this, you have a person that's right now at the Sefer Torah. He just finishes his aliyah. If you're going to tell me that right now he's going to go down, so what? He's leaving the Sefer Torah by itself like that? So some people wanted to bring down, this is the Kaf HaChaim, that nowadays that anyway you have the Bal Koreh, so the Bal Koreh is there anyways, so therefore you don't need to, you can just go down. But Rav Mazuz, he comes and he argues and he says no. He says why? In Siv Daled, it's actually brought down, which we're going to learn, is that you always have to have minimum of 2 people by the Sefer Torah. He says why? Because the Torah was given by a Sisur, and therefore even if the Bal Koreh wants to get the Aliyah, somebody else comes up with him, so therefore you're always going to have that amount of people by the Sefer Torah. So he says there was an inyan, the person, and that was a minhag, whether of Morocco or Tunisia, which means that you're going to have that the person that got the aliyah, he doesn't go down, he stays on the side. By COVID, it was a little bit of a problem because by COVID, since you weren't allowed to be there, so then everyone used to go down, and a lot of people started learning that. But in the olden days, it was always the person that got the aliyah, he would go to the side, which is going to be here, the right side, right? And he would actually stay there until after, just like the Mishnah Berurah says, until after the person, but he wouldn't go down in the middle of the aliyah. Because in the middle of the aliyah, imagine the guy starts Birkat Torah, he goes down, starts saying Chazak Baruch to everybody. People think it's a mitzvah to say Chazak Baruch, but they're being over in the Yisur of disgracing the Sefer Torah, because they're coming and they're saying Chazak Baruch and all these things in the middle of the Kriyat Torah, which they're not allowed to. Right? V'ozeh Hashem Yichlu is written about people that they come and they start speaking about other things, even if it's going to be for Chazak Baruch, in the middle of the reading of the Sefer Torah. So therefore what you do is you wait until Ben Aliyot, between the aliyot, and then what you're going to do is you're going to go down. So I think that's just very, very important. Glina, that tomorrow we'll continue with a little bit more. But again, this is just the basics, is that number one, when you're going up to the Tevah, always go the shortest way. You're always leaving the longest way. If it's equal, you always go to the right. And then when you're going down, you're always going the opposite way. And a person should always stay up there whenever they're going to get the aliyah until finally the next person gets up in order to come and to go down from the aliyah.